Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam she'akol niyeh bidvaro. There are 5 Megilot Scrolls that are part of the Canon of the Bible. And they're read in the synagogue, and individually we have to do the same, in different moments of the year. For instance, there's a book of Ruth that is also called a scroll that is read on Shavuot. There's a book of Kohelet, which is Ecclesiastes in English, and that is read on Sukkot. There is a book called Eicha, which is Lamentations, which is read on Tisha B'Av. There's a book called Esther, which is also a scroll, which is read in Purim, in the synagogue. And you will see also the way they fold the parchment on which the Megillah Esther is written is just to show that it's not like a Torah. It's different. It's called a scroll. But I want to speak about Shir HaShirim, the Song of Songs. When is the Song of Songs read in the synagogue? It is read on Pesach. Even though many Hasidim, many Orthodox read it every Friday. Before the evening prayers, they say Shir HaShirim. And in my home, my late father was a rabbi. I remember the tune by which he used to sing Shir HaShirim on Fridays before the evening prayers. What is Shir HaShirim? It is a song of songs that was written, according to Jewish tradition, by King Solomon. It is a love story. It is the story of a young woman and a shepherd. You know, he describes the way she looks, flowers, this. Our rabbis felt that does a love story belong in the canon of the Bible? And there was a dispute, shall we include it or not? Because, the Torah was given by God in Mount Sinai. But the rest of the Bible was at a certain moment composed into one book. It has 24 sections, and this is one of them, is Shir HaShirim. So our rabbis had a dispute, and Rabbi Akiva said the following, if every one of the books in the Bible are holy, Shir HaShirim is the holiest of all of them. Kodesh Kodashim. This is what Rabbi Akiva said. Because Jewish tradition interpreted this love affair between the young lady there and the shepherd was not just a pastoral story. This is the relationship between God and the Jewish people. We are sort of married. God and the Jewish people are like a family. In other words, I don't speak to God like a supreme being that is completely outside of this world. I speak to him as a father. He's a member of my family. I feel close to him. And this story really speaks about the relationship between the Jewish people and God. My teacher, Rabbi Soloveitchik, of blessed memory, had a very important essay called Kol Dodi Dofek. The voice of my beloved knocks. There is part of the Shir HaShirim says that this shepherd knocks on the door of the young lady, but she, in the meantime, wants to get dressed, wants to do so. She doesn't answer the knock at the proper time. And when she goes to the door, her beloved is no longer there. So what Rabbi Soloveitchik used that phrase is that there are moments in history where if you don't hear the knock, you don't know if the knock is going to appear once again. And he describes, I think, 5 or 6 episodes that he thinks are of historic importance in the history of the historic importance of the history, excuse me for the redundancy, in the Jewish people. The first one, he says, is the 29th of November of 1947. That was a meeting of the General Assembly of the United Nations where they declared the partition of Palestine then into an Arab state and a Jewish state. For the first time, the Soviet Union and the United States voted for the same thing. He says it's miraculous. It was an opportune moment. Who knows if in another moment of history that would have happened. Maybe that happened immediately after the Second World War, and humanity had a certain sense of guilt for what happened then, even though I think that the state of Israel was established because there were pioneers in Israel, because they worked the land for dozens of years before then. They reclaimed the land. That's why eventually the state was established. But there's no doubt also that that gave it an enormous push. Before then, it was under the Ottoman Empire. They didn't want to do anything. Then came the British. They didn't want to do anything. Finally, the United Nations on November of 1947 declared that. So he says that's one of the knocks that are very fortunate for the Jewish people. Another knock, he says, is in 1948. The Jewish people declared their independence, but immediately all the Arab armies tried to eliminate this state. The fact that the Jewish people responded at the time with all energy. I remember, I don't know if I mentioned that to you, I was a student at the time at Yeshiva University, and I remember that some older students used to disappear at night. What they were doing was packing military equipment from Czechoslovakia that is being sent to the United States, to Israel, because the United States didn't want to send any arms to Israel at that time. And thanks to the arms that came from Czechoslovakia, the Jews were able to overcome the different armies that were trying to eliminate that. Well, I think that that was a moment that hadn't the Jewish people responded the way they should have, hadn't they responded to the knock of history, who knows what the future of the Jewish people would have been. He says a third knock was that the creation of the Jewish state forever denied then one basic proposition of some members of the Christian church who said that Catholicism or Christianity is really the new Israel. The old Israel has been abandoned by God. God doesn't want that. We are the Israel today. I think the establishment of the state of Israel reaffirmed that Israel is here to stay. We responded or not. I think that was one of the reasons why the Vatican had such difficulties in recognizing the new state, because it was an important tenet of Christianity that Christianity is the new Israel and the other Israel has been abandoned by God. Rabbi Soloveitchik goes on to say that Jewry in general reacted tremendously to the establishment of the State of Israel. I know that before the establishment of the State of Israel, the Jewish people had really lost all sense of self-worth. I know one of the rabbis, one historian said, if it weren't for the establishment of the State of Israel, who knows if the Jewish people would still exist. After the Nazi era, after the persecution, elimination, without any response really, while that was happening from the rest of the world, showing that we don't care about the Jewish people. After all those events, maybe we Jews would have simply given up. We don't want to live anymore. And I think the State of Israel reawakened a sense of pride in being a Jew. According to Rabbi Soloveitchik, a fifth knock was something else. The State of Israel said Jewish blood is also important. Nowadays we hear about Black Lives Matter. Jewish blood has been spilled for centuries and nobody really cared. The State of Israel is saying something else. Jewish blood matters. And if there's an attack on Jews anywhere in the world, we are going to come to their help. We are not going to permit that Jewish blood should simply flow freely because Jews don't deserve any other fate. And finally, he says, there was another knock. Many people from different countries that felt that life was becoming very difficult. Especially after the war of 1967, many Jews in Morocco, in different parts of northern Africa, felt that they could no longer live freely in the societies in which they were living. There was too much anti-Semitism that was being sponsored by the state as well, because of the victory of the state of Israel over its enemies. So the fact that Israel was able to absorb all these people that wanted to leave their countries and had now a destination, they had where to go. They could get a visa to go into Israel. They could stay in Israel and receive citizenship. That is another knock that the Jewish people heard. Well, I think each and every one of us hears different knocks in life. There are moments when either you take advantage of the opportunity, maybe the opportunity doesn't come again. What is the movie? I don't remember. The Postman Knocks Twice. I don't remember the exact title. Some knocks are not repeated. So you have to be attuned to an opportunity in life. Maybe it's for a career. Maybe it's for a girl. Maybe it's for the boy that you want to marry. Don't let the opportunity pass by, but put all your senses, focus on the issue at the moment. And if an opportunity comes into life that is beneficial for you, take advantage of it.